David Smith here with yet one more flipped classroom math lesson. 3 tips before we start. First, remember that you can slow down or speed up the playback to suit your needs. Second, you can pause the video at any point to catch up with your notes or jot down questions. Third, you can turn on the captions and read my words on the screen. Today's lesson covers probability and sample space. And we're going to show you how to represent sample space with a new item called a grid, or a sample space diagram, as our IB textbook calls it. And there's an intermediate form here called a list. And we're going to start with that, and then we're going to move into our grid or our sample space diagram. So here's the situation. We visually represent the sample space when we have 2 subsets. So remember, the universal set is the entire realm of possibilities for any given situation. So what we're going to do is visually represent the universal set when we have 2 subsets. So these could be 2 different little events that maybe intersect, maybe don't, like we've been playing with all chapter long. So here's our example. 2 dice are rolled. Now what I'd like you to do is pause the video and write down like a list of all the possible outcomes that you can have. All right, so here they are, all the possible outcomes. I just listed them off. So here's rolling a 1 and a 1, a 1 and a 2. Here is rolling a 3 and a 4. Here is rolling a 5 and a 1. Now before we move on, I have a question for you. Why are these 2 added here? Rolling a 1 and a 5 and rolling a 5 and a 1. Aren't they the same result? Total of 6? Okay, now if you're sharp, you realize that this is rolling a 1 on the first die, 5 on second die. This is rolling a 5 on first die, 1 on second die. These are 2 different outcomes. Even though they are essentially the same result, they are 2 different possible rolls. Action. Okay, now you probably realize this is kind of cumbersome. We have 36 different outcomes, and just drawing that all out took a little while, and it's maybe not terribly useful in terms of figuring out some probability related questions. So we're going to change this around, and we're going to draw it as a grid. All right, here's my grid. Now I started off by labeling each point in the grid by the outcome. So this is 1, 1. See, I'm using my grid here. This would be rolling a 2 on the first one, a 1 on the second, so 2, 1, and so on. But really, I don't need to put these in here because you can read them off the axes of the grid. So I finished this out just by putting dots in my grid. Okay? Now, this is particularly useful for answering some probability questions. So let's do some. All right, I've given you 2 probabilities to figure out. I'm going to do this one with you, and then I'm going to turn you loose on that one. So, probability of at least 1/6. So check this out, it's kind of nice. What we can do is we can circle all the outcomes that have at least 1/6. And that would be these guys here, right? That's at least 1/6, that's rolling a 6 on this die. And then the other ones are these here, okay? So these are all the probabilities that are at least 1/6, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that would be 11 out of 36. Remember, 36 is the total in our universal set. Now the nice thing about this is that it prevented us from counting this one twice. You could look at it in your mind and go, well, we could roll a 6 on the first die, 6 different ways, and we could roll a 6 on the second die, 6 different ways. But then you would count this 6 twice. So you really have to be sure that you don't do that. Now, what I want you to do is pause the video and figure out what the probability is that the total on both die is greater than 9. So check this one out. I just circled all of the dots where the total of both die adds up to more than 9. Notice it wasn't greater than or equal to 9. It has to be more. So I've got 4, 6, that's 10. I've got 5, 6, that's 11. I've got 5, 4, I got 5, 5, there's a 10, and so on. So each of these dots represents an outcome when rolling 2 die where the total is at over 9. All right, let's try one with a coin and a die. So we're going to roll a 6-sided die, and we're going to flip a coin. And what I want you to do is we're going to find the probability of getting heads and less than 3, and then we're also going to find the probability of getting tails or 2. Okay? Now, you're going to want to make your grid first, so do that and come back. All right, so here's my grid, and I went ahead and put the outcomes in there. I didn't use dots because we had enough time, and there's only 12, so that's okay. So now I want you to come back here and figure out the probability of getting heads and less than 3. So use the grid to work that out and come back. Okay, so the probability of heads and less than 3, it's these two outcomes right there. That's heads and less than 3. So there's only 2 out of the 12. So we have 2 out of 12, which is 1/6. So that's the probability of this one. Now, bonus points. I want you to write this in terms of our notation only. It's a little bit of a stretch, but you can do that. So write the probability of heads and less than 3. All right, check it out. Probability of heads intersection, remember intersection is the more limiting case, less than 3. So this problem here could be written in this notation, and it would mean the same thing as that. Okay, moving on to our second problem. Now I want you to figure out the probability of tails or 2. Pause the video, use your grid, and find that probability. All right, let's see how you did. Probability of tails or 2, this one could be either outcome works. So here are 6 outcomes for tails. That satisfies our condition. Here is an outcome for 2. We didn't get a tail, but we did get a 2. Remember, it's or, so it's either one or the other. So using my grid, I have 7 outcomes out of 12. So there is my probability. Now that you've watched the video, jot down some notes or questions for our next class. You can also re-watch the portions of the video that you didn't understand so well the first time. If you enjoyed the video, please click like, and if you'd like to help me grow my YouTube channel, please click subscribe.